Then he called me up and he said, okay, I let her talk me into being buried, but here's what I want. What is that? He says, you got to make sure that I've been dead, like really dead, for at least a week. I want to be kept in a refrigerator above ground for a week before I get buried.
Did you plan for this, or did you miss when life demands answers you can't dismiss? Will you be ready when the trumpet blows? Do you have the blueprint for life's unknowns?
So, Marguerite, I have some cards here. I'd like you to go through them. It's called the Go Wish game.
Oh.
You and I have known about this for a while.
Yes.
We're very supportive of the organization. I'm going to let you take the deck, and maybe you and I can have a little chat about them.
I think this would be kind of fun. I'm gonna shuffle them.
Okay.
And first, I want to show the camera. I just want you to see that that's what it looks like. And then there are individual phrases on these cards. This one says, to be treated the way I want. So these cards are used to think about end of life. In my last 3 weeks of life, how would I like it to go? How do I want it to be treated? And here's what we're going to do, Ron. We're just going to take a moment. I'm going to give you half of these.
Okay.
So we're going to do a minimized form of the game. And you're going to flip them over. Oh, I got a wild card, by the way, and we'll talk about that too. And what I want you to do is make 2 piles.
Okay.
Maybe and no.
Should I read it as I'm going out loud? Do you want me to read them? And
you can, if there's one that sparks a reaction from you, feel free to share it.
Well, to have my family with me.
Oh, that's a nice one.
That's a yes.
That's a definite yes, right?
To have close friends near, I would say that's yes. Not dying alone, I'm going to go yes for that. So far.
Okay, and I don't need this one. It says to have my funeral arrangements made. I've already done that. I've taken care of it. So that's in my no pile because I've got it done.
Okay. Here's to have a doctor who knows me as a whole person. I'm not crazy. I don't have to have that.
Okay.
As a doctor, okay. I'm not a big...
It might be important to somebody, but it's not on your list, right?
Not on my bucket list.
I like this one. To have an advocate who knows and values my priorities.
That, yes.
That's a definite yes for me. I like the idea of having a nurse I feel comfortable with. I think that's really important. And here's the number one for me. This is number one, absolute most important. To be free from pain. That's really what I want in my last time on earth.
And Marguerite, you've dealt with that with a lot of your clients over the course of 20 years. Talk about that a little, because I think that is the number one.
You know, pain can be so distracting, and it can really prevent us from enjoying the company of others, enjoying whatever our surroundings are. I was very fortunate, for instance, to help my dad with his being on hospice in his last 3 weeks of life. He had his music playing. And by the way, that's one of the ways to use a wild card. There, as I recall in this deck, there's nothing about music or entertainment or anything specific that you'd want to have rolling on the TV. And so for my dad, it was his amazing music collection. No song repeated in 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
He really had a lot. For me, I've discovered these beautiful videos that go on for hours of streams that are rolling along with beautiful clouds in the sky and trees and bird song. That would be the kind of thing that I would want in the background for me to just be able to turn and just kind of be someplace else. And being free from pain specifically would allow me to enjoy whatever there is, some last visits with people. I'd like to think that I would know that my end is coming and that I feel at peace with my estate. I mean, I've stopped worrying about my estate from the first time I got an estate plan done. And so there's some things in here that have to do with making those arrangements that don't apply to me. But if you haven't done them yet, this would be a great way to be reminded about how to do it.
Yeah, there's some great thought processes that come out of these cards. To take care of unfinished business with family and friends. Again, how much time does one have? And what does that unfinished business mean?
Well, maybe you've been estranged from certain people, and maybe you would like to forgive them or have them forgive you. That would take a lot of courage. It might take asking your trustee to reach out to someone and see if they could arrange a meeting.
That that just it reminds me. I think that we'll have to do that as a segment. We're pulling out segments from various shows that we watch where it does it's very relevant to what we're talking about.
Mhm.
And there was a show, we'll have to save that for another day, where the woman she had she had a couple weeks to live, and she insisted on having her ex-boyfriend show up, having the no, she's in her 80s, have the ex-boyfriend think that she wants to reconnect with him in his favor as she's passing. She really had him come to tell him, son of a bitch. And that gave her peace
To finally tell him off.
to finally tell him off in her last weeks of life.
So with her last few breaths, that was really important to her, that she
That
wanted
was
the opportunity in his face to
that
tell
was
him off.
that was her go wish, to have the hospital find him, have him come to the hospital. Now again, this is a show. I get it, and I don't want to pass in the hospital. I want to go home and have hospice and loving ones around me.
Sure.
But that was her wish. That was her go wish, was to have this guy told off for what he did.
I'm going to worry about anybody inviting me to a hospital for a visit.
We'll have to pull that up.
Yes, but this one's another one that is really important to me, to have human touch.
Mm.
I think being cuddled if possible, to have massage, to have someone hold my hand, I think would be very important, and to help me not be afraid.
Listen, to know how my body will change.
Some people really want to know what to expect. And there are changes that happen in your body as your life force leaves it. And for some, they might want to know.
As everything starts to shut
Or
down.
even being in bed for 3 weeks.
Mm.
Once you're not doing your daily activities and you're not taking care of yourself that way, you might want to feel better prepared about what your body might need.
Now, are these things that somebody could write into their documents?
One of the ways these get used is really between the client and their person. Maybe it's with you and your agent for healthcare, so that just like we're talking about it now, you get a chance to talk about it. Like, I love this one, to keep my sense of humor. How can anyone else help me keep my sense of humor? Well, maybe there needs to be funny movies on the TV, or there needs to be some jokes. I know that it's death and it's dying and so on, but we're still people, and we can enjoy whatever we can in those last days. So the way these cards get used is to open up these conversations and say, oh, this doesn't apply to me because, or this does apply to me because. And that way you get a chance to use the cards to open up the conversation.
I think they're great just before you go talk to the attorney.
Sure.
Have this discussion on the table. If you're husband and wife, have it all spelled out. I think it'll be a great eye-opening experience when you go to that attorney. You're just going to be so much more prepared to talk about these issues.
Well, let's talk about spouses for a moment, because again, I think a lot of assumptions get made.
Okay.
And what I want is for each member of the couple or throuple, however you're living, whoever your persons or your people are, each person should have their own deck.
Okay.
Okay. And you start by reading each card and applying it. And this is why I say not yes or no. It's really a maybe pile and a no pile. Because some things immediately, you touch you and you go, oh, not that. That's not for me. Just like for me, I don't feel the need to pray. That's not for me. It might be really a strong thing for someone else, and I really respect that. So you get to choose that, right? And then you switch. And that way you get to see what your spouse really wants and what they really don't want. And the reason that we have to do that is because I had this one couple, and she wanted to be buried and he wanted to be cremated. Why does she want to be buried? Because she believes that at some point she's going to be resurrected and she wants her husband to be with her. It's super important to her. For him, he doesn't have the same beliefs. They've been married for 50 years. They just don't believe the same thing. And finally, he acquiesced in his funeral documents. They went and got their funeral pre-need plan paid for and so on, which is really smart, by the way. It can save your family a lot of money. And he signed on for being buried. And then he called me up and he said, okay, I let her talk me into being buried, but here's what I want. What is that? He says, you got to make sure that I've been dead, like really dead, for at least a week. I want to be kept in a refrigerator above ground for a week before I get buried. And I said, okay.
And you can do that.
Well, yeah, because his worst nightmare was waking up
not dead.
Yeah. which is fine.
Those are your one's wishes. Yeah.
Right. So he actually updated his advanced healthcare directive to express that wish. So it's important. It's important that we have it the way we want it. Why? Because once we do all this planning, then we can set it aside. That's the whole idea. You do your estate plan, and I know you don't want to think about it, and you don't want to talk about death. This makes the conversation so much easier. The Go Wish cards, and I'll show them to you again. It's the Go Wish game, and it's by CODAalliance.org. It's brilliant to have a tool like this. And once you get a chance to talk about it, now you've put it into your documents, and now you don't have to think about it anymore. But you got to do it right. You got to have it signed and written, the documents written, signed, dated. Got to have it done right.
Because there's 100% death rate.
100% death rate, Ron. It's absolutely true. Every family has a dead person.
Every family has a dead person.
Right.
I think this is a fabulous tool. They have it in, if you go on their website, I think they offered it in many languages.
That's my understanding. Yeah. But I think each person should have their own deck for this exercise. And then you could pass your deck along to another pair of friends who you love.
There you go.
Yeah. Let's share this.
And so Marguerite, wondering who should have their estate plan up to date.
Oh, Gavin Newsom. Will you be ready when life asks, did you plan for this?
Money management and legacy. Will you be ready for life's decree?